of us are coming?
I don't know. Should be all the officers. All the officers should be in attendance.
Hello.
I see we have one viewer. Could you announce yourself in the group chat, please? Can you see the group chat? All right. Well, since we have more than just the officers here, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Um, we are missing a few of our officers, so it might be a little bit an abbreviated meeting this evening. I don't plan on it being more than half hour, just for the sake of time. We'll get this done. Um, well, I can turn my camera off so you at least see a face. Good evening, everyone. Brandon Brown here. John. Um, John, our undergraduate vice president, here in attendance.
Hello.
We'll get started. So, social media. Um, obviously, as many of us know, it's a very commonplace idea nowadays. But not too long ago, it was, what is social? What is this term? What is this tool? How can it best be utilized? Like any sort of stuff. Took a little bit of time to realize what we could do with it, um, and actually use it to its maximum efficiency. So, where did social media really come from? The idea has always been ever since um, really the first instant messaging system from American Online. But really it morphed into something more than just a chatting feature. It became a virtual sharing platform. You now see it for video messages, web pages. That's really anything and everything. And that idea started really with the Haiti, and that's when I figured out, well, a couple different platforms, Facebook, started. These really platforms people turn to after the Haiti to communicate to their loved ones. Um, Real quick, John, could you do me a
Yes.
favor and mute your microphone? Bouncing back and forth. I think it's getting feedback from you. Thanks. All right. So where was I? All right. So the Haiti earthquake. So a lot of people had turned to that after the fact that this earthquake took place to communicate with their loved ones, get the message out that they're okay, because a lot of their telephone systems, excuse me, were inoperable, and a lot of these other transportation hubs were completely destroyed, leaving people only a few options. And that one option, and a few options in this case, were social media. And what people really figured out to use this system. Um, and so again, the media kind of took hold of that, and improvements were made. Fast forward a couple of years, and here we are with the Boston Marathon bombings. And it seemed not exactly the same situation, but a very similar situation in terms of a very short-term incident took place, and again, when all other communication systems failed, not that the cell phone systems were down in this situation, but again, people took to social media in a similar facet. A lot of people in the Boston Marathon bombings got rapid updates, people listening to scanners, posting that information on Facebook, Twitter especially. Really across the board, a lot of information was shared very rapidly in this rapid sense. And a lot of people got information sooner on these social media platforms than, say, your traditional media outlets, your news, your radio. Um, so that actually presented a couple different challenges in terms of information accuracy. Some people would see or hear something over the scanner and say it right away, even though it might have been a false report or um, somebody just seeing what they heard. So that presented a new issue, but really in kind of the grand scheme of things, looking at this social media aspect, it really played one of the largest roles that we've seen to date in a disaster situation. Um, John, I'm going to look to you. John, what thoughts do you have on kind of this modern implementation of social media in a disaster environment?
I really think the implementation of social media is so great now, especially anyone can get in touch with anyone, really. So, especially with disasters, you can easily get in touch with people who are not around you or you don't know where they are. You can easily try and track them down, basically, with social media today. Um,
So yeah, that's just one aspect. Really tracking people down. You mentioned that, and a lot of different organizations have taken grasp of this. A lot of one example is the Red Cross in terms of their Safe and Well program. It's not social media, but it's something that has taken hold because of social media, and so people can now have an additional outlet for gathering information um, almost directly because of social media. Um,
and especially, oh,
sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
and especially with that Red Cross, like you were saying, people can just go there to try and find people. So it's not necessarily you yourself has to have a device to be able to get in touch with someone else who has a device. It's a central location for people to go to and try and get in touch with another possible location that has access, and then they can communicate that way, if that makes sense.
Um, and also, I want to just bring mention those of us who are in the viewer tab. We can't see specifically who's on here, but if you do have any question, we do have the group chat open. You should be able to type in any questions, so you can just voice your concerns there. So, yeah. Um, so, where do you think we're headed in terms of um, specifically just social media? We'll talk about its role in terms of disasters in a bit, but where do you think social media itself is headed from where we are now to maybe say 5, 10, 20 years down the road?
I think social media just in general is, it already is blown up really, so it's only going to get bigger, and we're only going to see more connected things or sites or ways to ways to connect, basically. um, I think um, yeah, I just lost it, I'm sorry. um, but yeah, it's only going to be getting more expansive really, I think. What do you think?
Sorry, I'm finding a little bit of a delayed connection here.
Yeah,
Um,
same here, sorry.
no, it's all right. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much more of a role um, social media really does play in our lives. I mean, we're already basically connected 24/7, Facebook notifications, tweets, YouTube updates, et cetera, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see what other platforms take hold. Now, one interesting discussion I read maybe a year or two ago was in terms of a lot of people thinking that Facebook will die out in the next year or so. And I actually disagree with that. Their claim was that in previous social media platforms, they've hit their peak and then they've sort of drifted off and a new platform comes on board. Um, so, okay. Um, I lost my train of thought there. Um, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we've already seen Facebook keeping up and trying to remain fresh and implementing updates and making changes to stay fresh and kind of popping and appeal to what's hot nowadays. So um, in that respect, I mean, as long as they can keep the product fresh, specifically with Facebook, I know there are a lot of other platforms. Twitter's doing a lot of updates. Google Plus keeps their stuff extremely fresh, and those are just the three dominant platforms. We have lots of others: Reddit, Pinterest, Instagram, you name them. Um, as long as those platforms can keep themselves fresh and relevant, I don't see them necessarily dying out. Um, and it's going to be interesting to see if another platform comes on board and makes a run at these big established platforms to see if it can overtake it.
It's
Um,
funny you mentioned that. A while back, do you remember another social media site called like Ello or something? It was supposed to be a Facebook killer. Yeah, there was one not too long ago out, and it was said to be really good, but it was hyped up for a day, and then it disappeared. And of course, you saw it all over Facebook, but Facebook is still hopping as ever. I remember when Twitter first came about, and I really didn't think anything of it because you were so limited, but people like it, I guess.
yeah, and again, every different um, every different outlet has its own kind of flair, its own benefits, the pros and cons. Um, so actually, one thing I'll be interested to see is, in terms of moving forward, is if there's this sort of almost a standardization across the board in terms of who has what makes one entity more special than the other. Um, almost almost looking at the smartphone market in terms of, I mean, to just bring up one example, you have all these different manufacturers with different technologies, different, for example, cell phone charging ports. Um, you used to sometimes have those hand crank battery chargers, and they would give you a pack of about a dozen different adapters to fit whatever cell phone you had at the time.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, they're all standardized across the board. And I like to say standardization makes the world go round, because it really does. And just imagine if on your car, we all had, um, different types of seat belts. One person had the over the shoulder, another person had just a lap belt, another car had, like the 6-point racing harnesses. Um, Standardization has its place, and in certain aspects, it makes the world go round. So, kind of getting back on track here in terms of social media's integration into disasters, one thing that I would like to see personally is something along the lines of what the Red Cross has done in terms of their people tracking or their Safe and Well program. Having sort of a unique, um, consistent kind of targeting where someone can go specifically for disasters. Yes, it would remain active or passive in much of the daily routine. Maybe it could play a role in terms of education and preparedness sort of thing, almost like what Dr. Hagelgans was talking about in Costimo. Um, but to have that sort of that one place to go to when you need it most, because we've seen how social media really plays a role. So to have, instead of everybody kind of arbitrarily and blindly posting information saying, "Hey, I'm okay, I'm here," have one consistent form or tab widget per se, where people can go to and post um, timely information. Now, I have no idea what that's going to look like, if that's even going to be a thing. But I would like to see along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Cross, from what I've seen so far, has done pretty good with that, but still, it's not, like you were saying, a standard basically yet. We do need something, especially in disasters, where people can just easily go to. I mean, I know Google had a crisis map, and that showed basically for big disasters, they keep you updated from what they know, what they can congregate. That would be something neat to implement it on there, and during a disaster, have it right on someone's homepage. But that's just one site, and we need something big to really come about and get everything together.
Um, One thing, I don't know if we're ever going to get to a point where all platforms are working together. Um, but one thing that I think could do, or could come about, is if in a disaster situation now, however you define that, whoever's involved, that's determined. But especially for maybe geographically targeting in different regions, if you or if these platforms, if they all create a bubble where everyone can contribute, not necessarily on that specific platform, but almost in the way of sending a link to a friend, where Facebook links into one portal, Google links into one portal, Twitter links into one portal. Everyone can go to one place and have information, contact their loved ones, that sort of thing. Um, Maybe that's some sort of collaboration that can happen moving down the road. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Um, Even the use of like hashtags today, that would be great for disasters and whatnot because we can congregate everything in one place almost because Facebook now accepts them. Um, Twitter always had them, and then now Google Plus has them at least. And I don't know of any others right now, but big ones. You could easily go there, especially like in a disaster. Because I don't think you're going to be putting anything on Instagram, but who knows? um, but someplace to easily go, like you were saying, and get everything together. I think a global hashtag could be good for that.
That's actually a good point. I don't know why I didn't even think of hashtags. You know, they're everywhere. You know, hashtag coming to internet. So yeah, if you know the message is across the board that um, you know everyone can congregate in one specific area for, based upon one hashtag. Say for example, we have another hurricane hit the East Coast. If we have something like hashtag disaster portal hurricane act, you know that everyone enters the hashtag portal with any sort of information pertaining to an impact that they have with their loved ones, that sort of thing. Um, that might work, but again, that's however that's designed, that's set up. Typically, if it's a hashtag, it's either something that's arbitrary that someone makes up, or it pertains to a certain event that's kind of commonplace. It doesn't actually take anyone anywhere. Um, so if again going back to that collaboration, if there's um, some sort of link or some portal that everyone can hashtag into or be related to through a hashtag, um, that might go a long way in terms of getting people connected, getting the ball rolling, getting people back on their feet.
Yeah, definitely. And also, whoever is watching, you can open up the chat and talk with us. If you don't have it open up on the right side, just move your mouse over the screen and go up to the second um, icon, and hover over it says chat. You can click on it and open up the chat if you want to get and talk to us if it's not there. But you could even put a hashtag if you want. But I don't know of any other ways that everything can be pulled like that from hashtags. But that could be used. There you go.
So there we go. We tested it out. We got our first disaster portal hashtag right there, ready to go. All right, all we need to do is get everybody in the rest of the world on board. That should be an easy task, right? You know, the internet's all omnipresent and it's all reaching, all encompassing. Shouldn't be too difficult.
Maybe we can start a campaign or one of the Kickstarter, not Kickstarter, but
yeah, Kickstarter would work. Get people to donate money.
Yeah, why not?
Um, well, I think that's interesting for tonight. John, do you have any other thoughts on this issue?
I think social media is is such a powerful tool that we have today, and it's if you think about it, it's amazing, really. Like just a few years ago, we couldn't do anything like this, and if a disaster happened, we would need satellite cell phones, basically, to try and get in touch with one person at a time. Whereas now, you can at least put on some social media that, hey, I'm okay, and hope someone sees it. But I think we still need to advance with this. Like, there's so much more we can do with social media in regards to disasters or just anything because it's so powerful and it's so all-encompassing. Really, everyone's using it today.
You actually brought up an interesting point about satellite phones in terms of at the Hurricane Katrina symposium that we had on campus a couple weeks back. One of the presenters who was from the National Weather Service in Louisiana. Um, I forget which office specifically, but he mentioned that after the disaster, the only thing that they had were satellite phones, and even those didn't work 3/4 of the time because what happened was everyone was running out and getting satellite phones, and satellites can only hold so much traffic. They're meant to be used maybe one or two individuals at a time, um, basically because the satellite just doesn't have the power to handle hundreds and hundreds of thousands of different calls like your cell towers do. So actually, um, even satellite phones were completely devoid in that situation, that disaster. So that was just an interesting point that I thought would be interesting to bring up. Um, but you brought up another interesting point as far as these social media platforms that we have are so powerful, so all-encompassing. I feel like we've only scratched the surface in terms of their capability. It's almost like the Wright brothers stumbling across some improvements to their airplane in the early 1900s. Yes, they made it better. Yes, they improved upon it. Yes, the flying machine was accepted and becoming commonplace. But there were so many things that could be improved upon and developed and really strengthened. Where here we are now, 100 years later, and we got on an airplane, we don't even think about it anymore. It's just, we can get across the country in 5 hours. That's just how powerful of a tool we have, and we don't even realize it half the time. So, will social media get that place? Who knows? Um, but yeah. Um, well, it's getting towards 9 o'clock here. I don't want to have too long of a meeting. Um, for those of you who are watching this recording, once we publish it on YouTube, feel free to make some comments below. Myself or some of the other officers will get back to these comments below. If you have any questions, feel free to post them. We will probably be doing another or a round table, discussion next semester. I know we had a few kinks to work out here, so we'll see if we can fix that for the spring. But for our very first Google Hangouts roundtable discussion, I feel like this was a few minor tips here and there. But yeah, other than that, I also want to make an announcement that our December meeting was at December 2nd. Okay, excuse me, I had to look at the calendar there. I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry. December 2nd is our next meeting, and we will have another guest speaker come in. Those details will be published on our Facebook page, Google+. So stay tuned for some updates there. But John, do you have any other thoughts before we close out the meeting?
No, I think we covered it.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. If anyone has any comments, please post them in the YouTube link below once this is published. Or again, post them on our Facebook page. Any questions you have, we'd love to just start a discussion, get things rolling in that respect. If there's anything we missed, any topics that you feel would be interesting to discuss, facebook.com/MU-IAEM, or our parent Facebook page on facebook.com/MUCDRE. That's the Center for Disaster Research and Education. Other than that, I feel like this was a great meeting, and I would like to conclude this Google Hangout. So, John, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you, Dan. It was a pleasure.
Night to everyone. Yeah.